We're live, guys, and as we said, today we're going to review the Sprint. We got a 2021 Sprint right behind us, and this is live, so sorry for any weird interruptions or goofiness. Once again, we're going to be recording this also and putting it to YouTube, but today we're going to be live, that way you guys can ask questions and jump in and chime in. OMC goes over the machine every year, and the one thing that's really cool that I noticed about OMC is at the end of every season, each sales guy, each service manager takes your information, the grower information, the feedback from the growers, and we come up north and we have a meeting, and in that meeting we discuss how we can make the machine better, how we can make it the best machine in the industry. So that feedback is coming from you guys, and we put those things in place. So we're going to go over the machine, we're going to cover it. Hopefully we won't take too long. We won't probably cover a lot of service issues, but we're just going to cover the changes and the few differences in the machine and what makes it so special. So I'm going to introduce Kevin Struxma. We got Kevin Struxma. He's our regional service manager. This should be fun. And then Brian Anderson, our VP. He's kind of our cameraman, but he's going to be jumping in also. There we go. Perfect. So we're not going to waste any more time, guys. Hopefully the audio is good. If it's not, let us know. We'll speak a little louder. We'll try to make sure that you guys can hear it. We're going to start off by jumping into the R7 head. Now, what most guys don't know, if you haven't bought anything in the last 2 years, you don't know that we made a change to the head. Originally, we had an R2 for a while, which was a really fast head that sped up really fast, and we had our R3, more versatile head, a head that could knock a little harder. It's normally on our monobooms. You can throw weights in it, it's a very versatile head, big head though. It was quite a bit longer than the R2. Last year we did a full redesign into the R7. So R7 is the best of both worlds. And once again, if you haven't purchased in the last couple of years, you won't even know that we had this head. So it's a little shorter head, but it has the durability and the adjustability of the R3. So you can stack weight in it, right? You can hit a tree as light, as hard as you want. So it's super versatile. Like I said, this last season, from 3-year-olds to 25-year-olds, we were out shaking. I didn't adjust. I ran right around 1300 PSI in plant pressure and ran everything, thankfully because of the air pads, which we're going to jump into here. So I just want to share that it's a super versatile head, it's a super durable head, and we've made some changes. Kevin, why don't you come in here and talk about maybe the pump and some of the support mounts that we've done.
So we went from an 80cc motor to a 94cc motor, which helps get your shake up to speed faster with more torque. Also, we changed the head hangers, went from the multi-angle hangers to more of a house-style hangers, so you have a lot less issues with those. Also, we did a couple things different to the hinge pin, and we had to go to a different belt. And that's pretty much all the changes we made on it.
So one thing you mentioned on the hangers, and Brian's going to jump in here and say something also, previously we weren't getting full welds all the way around, and now if you can see, you will be able to see, most like I said, we'll show this a little clearer later, but the welds are getting welded completely around the hangers. So durability and cracking out, those things have been adjusted. And once again, that was feedback from growers. We made those changes. And then the bigger motor, as Kevin said, just more torque, Kevin? More torque. So it speeds up a lot faster. You get a shock to the tree a lot quicker. And like I said, it was just a hell of a shaking machine this last year.
Also changed the pins where you're holding them in on the side by bolts instead of having the pins go through and bolting them on top.
One other thing that seems to not get talked about enough is right now we are the only shaking company in the industry that has external greasable bearings. Now, for you, what that means is easy serviceability and just quick access to getting in. Normally you got to pull. There's a back plate back here. Most spikes, we'll kind of show you some of this stuff later. But there's a back plate back here. Normally you got to pull that off to get in there and grease the bearings. Now, right on the top of the head, you can grease the top of the head and the bottom of the head and push grease completely through those bearings, and you're right back into the field. So just less likely that you're going to miss those serviceable items. That's one more thing that we've done to just increase serviceability and durability for you guys. Anything else?
Everything gets done more when it's easy to do.
Brian says everything gets done more when it's easy to do. That's pretty good. That's pretty handy. I like that. Can we see the air pads okay?
Yeah, we got a good view of that.
Okay. So this seems to be super controversial, right? Not on our side. Currently on our side, 99, Brian, 98% of people that buy OMC, would you say buy air pads?
Yeah, absolutely.
So out of hundreds of machines a year, 1,000 machines over time, 99, 98% buy the air pads. And the question is always why. And I'm going to break this down later in a more detailed video. We have a broken down pad display. But the biggest reason is the air pads are a smaller subset of rubber versus a standard rubber donut pad. And as me and Brian talked and the engineers talked, one thing that's known for sure is rubber is an isolator. So rubber is built to reduce vibration. Think about any engine, right? Always rubber isolator. So the more rubber you have, the less shape that you're going to be able to transfer, less energy you're going to be able to transfer. And if you look inside those donuts, those rubber donuts, they usually have about this much room to be able to crush down and create a pocket. Well, once that's taken up, now the rubber's pushing back. And we talk about barking trees. No one wants to bark trees. No one wants to create that everybody hates that. You want to talk about damaging trees or causing problems. We have guys that specifically ask for, whether it's custom shaped or companies, for the air pads because they're known for barking less trees. And the reason for that is, once again, it's a smaller, and we'll show this later in a more detailed video. It's a smaller circular pad that has less rubber on it, and then it's filled with this nylotron fill. So it's kind of like a sandbag to the fact that now it's just going to create a natural pocket around that tree. It's almost able to choke the tree. So we need less pressure to hold onto a tree, and we're able to transfer more energy because we're not losing the shape in the tree. You can see me okay?
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
No questions.
I'm running through fast, guys. If you have questions, let me know. The other thing that we do is the number one killer of rubber, any rubber, is heat. And sorry, I got Kevin Streetsman sneering at me behind the screen. Don't do that again. Sidetrack.
He's whispering them in my ear.
The number one killer of rubber is heat. And that is the point of the air. So a lot of people, like I said, we talk about this all the time. We have an air pump, and we'll show you guys that here in a little bit. But we blow air constantly through these rubber pads. And we call these the diffuser right here. Like I said, we'll show you some examples of that. It's a steel insert with a bunch of holes in it. And we have it on both sides. So we have it on this side with the swivel, where the airline runs in, runs through the pad and the nylotron. So it's constantly blowing out that hot air exchange, and it's blowing it out here. Okay? So we're able to run our pads quite a bit cooler than anybody. And not only can we do that with air, but we've also started water injecting also. So now air pads has always been an option. If you don't like the air pads, no problem. We can do rubber donuts. But if you want to upgrade, which most OMC customers do, you get the air pads and then you get the water injection pads also. So the water's tapped into the airline, runs through the pads, through the nylotron, and then out of the pad, expels the heat, gets rid of the heat. Thanks, Kevin. All right. So here I'm going to bring it up to him. Hopefully Brian will guide me. We've got a diffuser right here. Can you see that okay, Brian?
Yep, perfect.
Focused. So you can see this is what's on the end of the pads, and this plugs into the pad and then allows the air to go through the pad, but the nylotron not to escape the pad. So it's been absolutely awesome. Like I said, out of every machine we sell, about 98% buy it because they know it works. Some customers come from competitive lines. If you don't want it, you don't have to have it. It's whatever you want, whatever you choose, but we believe in it. We know it works. We have customers that specifically request it, but that's it. Turning the pads, very simple on the OMC.
I was going to say, we actually have a question.
Oh,
it says, do you rotate the pads? Some people do, and some people don't.
Yeah, great question. Who asked that question? Let's go credit. Unless it's a friend of mine, I don't.
Ethan, 18.
Ethan, good question. So yes, we recommend that you always rotate the pads. We recommend at the end of every row, which usually is about in 30 minutes. Customers do different things. Customers, approach it in a different way. I can show you how to do that, but we'll probably do it on another video. But basically, I think I've shown that on another video. Yeah. But basically, yeah, pull the pad out a little bit. What's nice is we don't have to completely take the pad out on the rounds. And we have a tool, or you can use a wrench, and turn the pad quarter turn. This is what we recommend. You know, a round pad is just like a tire, and the more you rotate and take care of that tire or that pad, the longer life you're going to get out of it. So that's something we definitely recommend, is that you rotate your pads, you keep an eye on it. Otherwise, it's always going to wear. If this was the pad, it's always going to wear on this point. And the moment that point is worn out, you're going to blow out a very expensive pad, which is not what you want to do. If you continually quarter turn it, and then what I recommend to customers at the end of the season, you flip the pad, because the pad's the same on both sides. And now you're just evenly wearing that pad. So there you go. Thanks, Joe. Good. Well, that about does it for the R7. I don't know if I did miss anything, guys.
I think you covered it.
Once again, new. If you haven't seen it in the last couple of years, it's a new, completely redesigned, completely new shake pattern. I didn't think I said that. That's accurate, correct?
Yeah.
I have to make sure. Sometimes things get changed and I don't know. But completely new shake pattern. It's really, if you do have an R7, watch the shake pattern in slow-mo. Just a little fun fact and tip there versus some of the other machines. And like I said, redesigned head, durable head, robotic or welded head, just overall durable. It's an absolute beast. Every one I took, every competitive shaking demo I took it to, it absolutely just outperformed. So if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. But awesome head. Let's jump. Maybe we can pick that up and move it. Well, like I said, you guys are kind of coming with us. We'll jump into valves and the new hose layout. Now redesigned. When did we redesign this? About 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
Got cleaned up, right?
Yep.
And redesigned. So if you have anything older, you're probably gonna say, "Man, I got really long hose runs. Maybe it's not as clean as you wish it would." Or
I'm going to go to the other side of the machine.
okay, yeah, whatever you need to do. Maybe it's not as clean as you know. The feedback originally was could be a little bit cleaner, could be a little bit better laid out, and those things have been changed. You can see it in here. Kevin, you want to jump around here and just kind of hit a couple of these points? Or Brian?
Kevin's on it.
Kevin's on it.
He wanted to be insta-famous.
When you get a big title like that, you have to do things like this sometimes.
I don't find that. Some of the things that we changed on here, instead of having you had your head brake sequence valve, locking block all on 3 different blocks. We went from 3 to 1 big block. Cleaned up a lot of the hose lay, makes it look a lot better, a lot easier to work on, and a lot cleaner. Also, we got rid of sweeper valve. We added the sweeper valve to the actual valve body itself. So now it's all done off of 1 valve. It's a lot cleaner, a lot less hose layout, a lot less hoses. Also, we got basically changed the way that we're running. We don't have pressure switches anymore, except for a micro pressure switch for something. But other than that, we got rid of a lot of the problems that you would have, especially with the pressure switches.
So, once again, feedback from you guys, these changes have been made, so when you do need to make a change or an adjustment, it's a lot easier to get in here. Normally we have a door that would close over this, and that door has a schematic right here on the side of it. It lists every valve, every hose, so if there's something in question or something that you're not sure about that's outside of warranty, obviously, you can address it very quick, very easy. It's right in front of you. It's visible, right? If you have a small leak or something, you can get to it really, really fast. And something we will show, and I'm probably going to show it on the later, I'm going to mention it now, is all these hoses now run outside of their blocks. They're running to stainless steel hard lines underneath the machine. And that has been something that was also made in 17, Brian, correct? Yeah. Right around 17?
Yes.
So that's something that instead of running those 10, 15 foot, 20 foot long runs, those now underneath the machine, I'll show you guys a video, or we'll video it, are now stainless steel hard lines from the front to the back. So if you ever do need to make a hose change, you're not pulling long hose just to make a quick change. Those are real quick, easy changes to make. What's up, Kevin?
Another thing is a lot of the hoses are labeled with the length and sizes.
So awesome. Kevin said, I don't know if you can see right here. Well, you probably can't see. Oh, right here. Can you see that? You guys hopefully can see that. Probably not very well. But right here, it's labeled. It's labeled with the length, 67 inches. It's labeled with the...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. We paused it for a second here. But each hose now is labeled. So not only do we have partner number, we have length and where the hose goes. So it says right here, 6FJX, 6FJX90s. Main bulkhead, blowout case frame, 67 inches. So once again, we're trying to make, not only build the best damn machine in the industry, but we're trying to make it more serviceable, easier to work on. That way, you know, it makes life a little bit simpler for you guys also. It's super important that we do things like this. And it's these little things that make a big difference in the field, right? When your guy just needs to take a picture and send it to his parts guy. So, awesome. Once again, awesome changes. Anything else in here you guys want to cover or hit?
I think we're good. I think one of the things maybe, you know, recognize that, you know, most of the things we do, we overbuild, right?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about...
Come over here, Brian. Brian thinks he's going to get out of the video, but he's not. But what he's saying is super important.
Yeah, so, you know, we have a tendency to overbuild things. And when one of the things in the hydraulics is we run our pressures at about 3,000. Well, the valve body's rated at 5,000. So we do that in a lot of cases where we're not anywhere close to the maximum pressure on any of those components. And I think that's a super critical piece. We're not close. We don't overheat. We're not exploding valves. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everything is overbuilt and with purpose.
I think hands down that's a great point, because that is one thing that I know as a sales guy we talk about through OMC is you look at the machine and it's not bare minimum, right? And I don't see the details like the valve or the inside the valves and that kind of stuff. For me, you know, I don't know that much tech on the machine, but the metal, right? How we powder coat, just how we build in general, our horsepower. To Brian's point, we overbuild so there's less stress on the machine, so you get a longer life out of the machine. Those things are super important to us, and that's why, or just one more reason why we build the best. So we'll keep moving. Right in here is our main pump, and then also access to the hydraulic tank. There's a hydraulic fill right here and a sight gauge. Outside of the sight gauge is connected to a sensor. So if there is low hydraulic oil, it does show it on the screen. So first off, the driver always has a warning, and second off, for a pre-maintenance check, you should always be looking at the sight gauge. It's something that, so two ways of knowing, right, that you're safe and that you're not screwing up the machine. Kevin, why don't you talk about the main pump a little bit, and we'll jump over to the engine.
Two pumps here. You got your hydrostat pump, which is basically your main drive. Also, we changed this a few years ago, went to a load sense pump. Instead of having an open center valve where you're constantly sending oil, it's more of a pump that's oil on demand.
Why oil on demand versus oil always flowing?
Brian would answer that better, but a lot of it is horsepower consumption. You're not getting the oil as hot. You're only using the oil when it's needed.
Yeah, no, exactly. So you're not pumping the oil all the time, right? So you don't have that parasitic load, constantly having that pressure there. You have a very small amount of pressure in that in the load sense line compared to openly pumping 22 gallons a minute. You know what I mean? Right. So it's just less load on the engine.
So overall, you guys would say efficiency, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that, once again, these are the small things that guys miss. We have a more efficient pump that allows less heat buildup, right? Which all these things create longevity in a machine. All these things create life in a machine. And these are the things that probably are some of the things that are overlooked in a high quality build machine. And it's the extra things that OMC does, it's the extra things that we do in order to make sure you have the best experience. We'll jump over to me, unless there's any questions from here on. The gimbal fits it.
It did. It's amazing. It makes me less shaky for sure.
Yeah. The cat. Quack the cat. Not the quack, the cat. It's 4.4 twin turbo, 174 horsepower engine. We get a lot of questions about this. And not that really, you know, a while back there was a little back and forth about horsepower and what's needed and what's usable. Once again, we overdo the horsepower a little bit to make sure that we're not taxing the engine. You know, I don't want to say anything, but now the horsepower conversation is no longer around, right? Our competitors are back up to 139, and we're still at 174. We believe in horsepower because horsepower converts into work getting done. So when you hit that button and you see the transfer of energy into load through the pump to the head, we get it, right? 174 horsepower. Who doesn't like power? You know, all you guys in the field build trucks. They build them with power. When you look at efficiencies, it's to get horsepower and torque as fast as you possibly can, and then to get the life once again out of the engine. We don't have to tax 174 horsepower for everything that it's got. So if you're looking for longevity and reliability, we give you a little bit more, so we don't have to use every bit in order to send the power into the tree. It is twin turbo. The engine's been pretty damn good. I don't know. I mean, overall, it's been really, really good. None of us are excited about getting rid of, not having no depth. Right? I mean, no one. But the reality is, the industry is that way. It's what we're going to deal with, and the depth consumption on this machine is super minimal. Do you know what the number is?
2 to 3%.
2 to 3%. I mean, it's when guys, everybody's usually concerned. Well, I would say a few years back, more people would bring up that conversation. Once you buy the machine and you put it in the field, no one talks about depth, right? And one thing that people don't know about depth, but they actually did studies on depth, and you actually get a little more reliability and a little bit. It actually cools the engine a little bit also. So a lot, some things that people don't know. But it's been an awesome package. The cat has been it's been really, really good for us. It's been bulletproof for us. Anything you guys want to chime in and check in on?
Well, the definition of horsepower is the rate at which work is done.
The rate at which work is done. Cool. Jump in. Kevin, anything?
No, you pretty much hit it all.
Yeah. Oh man, one of my fun selling points here. So we do have the Radiator package. All right, get it. So single stack design. In the past, if you have any older machines in the field, you'll remember when you open this door, right? The radiators were all stacked up over each other, and now they're stacked vertically with each other. So a couple things. Heating and cooling. I mean, for me as a sales guy in the field, I haven't had one customer complain about that. I can't say that across the board about anything. Obviously, every machine is a little bit different. But for me, I'm like, just no one says anything about heating and cooling. The reversing fan on this thing is it's a clean fix. Hydraulic reversing fan, it's a monster. It really does a really good job. We can rev it up to, or it'll reverse with right under 2,000 RPM, right around there, Brian?
Right.
I don't know the exact number.
Right below 2,000.
So in working condition, we get to preset this in the cab. From the factory it comes preset, but just say you're in horrible conditions and the outside of this screen is getting built up with just crap all over the place. We can set that, we can tune it down a little bit and have it reverse a little sooner. I've seen, even on my demo, I was watching my demo, and after about 200 hours, I was inspecting it, and there was just very, very little buildup. I mean, I almost zero maintenance. Now, once again, it's something you should check. You need to get in here and look at it every day. But for me, maintaining my own demo, I really didn't have to do anything. And to me, that's pretty damn impressive when it's almost a worry-free. Once again, you should get in there and check it. But the single stack design in 110 degree, 112, 113, whatever it is, just heating issues are not a problem on this machine. And that is something that is huge. The reversing fan is something that is huge. When that thing reverses, it's funny, and I will say it's almost the only thing that you hear in the field, because sometimes the cat engines are a little quiet. But for me as a sales guy, when you load it up on the machine, sometimes it'll reverse as somebody's walking by, which is kind of entertaining too. I think that's pretty funny. You do have a sight gauge for your fluids, for your radiator. And then once again, your hydraulic reversing fan is over here on the right. We'll show you guys, like I said, I'm going to do some more detailed videos that focus on these items a little bit more. Anything you want to hit in?
I think with a couple things you can touch on is one, it's going to reverse when you start up.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it reverses on temperature, and then you can also purge it with a touch of a button.
The manual purge.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so at the end, Brian brings up a good point. So every time you start the machine, you're going to hear it reverse. And then also the manual purge button. There's a button, it's the bottom right, it's a square with a circle in it. If you touch that button, it manually purges. So end of the day, right, you can almost rev it up to 1,800, 2,000 RPM. You purge that thing, and it'll blow dust almost 15, 20 feet. It's pretty, like I said, pretty damn impressive. It's an awesome piece. Do we have any questions? Or?
No, just clean fix guys saying thanks for the show.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Let's jump. We'll jump over here. This is just kind of a quick, like, overview piece. Nothing too detailed here, but we have our air filter, our silicone sling lube tank. This, if you have an older machine, you're used to the hydraulic style. What would you call it? Sling lube.
Pad lube.
Water pump.
Water pump,
sorry.
yeah.
Blanking a little bit, getting ahead of myself. But we went to an electric pump, 12-volt pump. Pretty awesome system also. Once again, making changes in the field. Say you're like, hey, these are young trees. Maybe I'm going into the field a little bit early, and I want to throw a little more lube on those slings. From the screen, within seconds, you can get in there. You can hold one button. It brings up the menu. You can just say, hey, throw a little more sling lube on that, and go to the field. So that having that there is awesome. Like I said, air filter. You want to jump in on here?
No, you talked about adjustability.
Oh, yeah, you're getting excited on me. Diesel and depth. Pretty self-explanatory, but there's two tanks for a reason. Don't mix them, right? I mean, this is just, once again, I'm not diving into service here, but we've had some guys just not read, or look at colors. Don't mix them. It's going to cost you a lot of money. It's not something that you want to do. And in my opinion, it doesn't get much easier, right? If you're doing service and maintenance, they're both right here, right? If you fill up your tank, your sling lube, check your air filter, which is a little sight gauge right here. You can check that, and then top off. There is a gauge for the fuel and for the depth. So on your screen, you'll know exactly where you sit with both, but those are both there if you need to get to them. Over.
Make sure you stop at the door and hair glass.
Air glass. So standard features, and this is something that it's a good time to talk about. In the past, OMC's had a lot of options, which options are good, right? We want to make sure that you guys have the versatility to be able to add and change what you want, but there's some options that you just have. And that one is the hair glass. It's half-inch thick, right? Just want to double check that. I knew it was, but aluminum.
Aluminum extruded frame.
Aluminum extruded frame. The extruded word was losing my brain. But if you're in the field and you're driving it, guys just go through windows. They do. Hands down, they're breaking it, especially this outside window. They're going through it. We have not had one break that I've heard yet on the outside window.
Not on the outside.
Not on the outside window. So, once again, standard feature now used to be an option, but it's a standard because most of our customers will buy it. And if it's something that's going to give you guys overall less downtime, right? Something like this is what you're going to want to have. You do have the air glass on the side window and the front window. And then the window on the shaker side is a standard glass window, tempered glass.
It's still laminated tempered glass.
Laminated tempered glass. But say something happened to the door, you couldn't get out, you could go out that way if you need to. Right?
Technically, egress window.
Egress window, there you go. Like I said, some of this terminology I'm not in tune to. The cab. And I'm going to pull that off here in a second and show you guys the cab a little bit closer because I want to show you guys a little bit of the controls also. But everything's done with, like I said, extreme detail. So comfortability, heater comes standard now. That used to be an option in the past, but so many guys are winter shaking now. So heater's built in, ready to go. As you are, obviously air conditioning, radio, CD, Bluetooth, all that kind of fun stuff comes standard. And just a super nice, comfortable cab. It combines with the R7 and the cab. The one feedback that I got this year, which was a fun feedback, whether it was an owner driving, a guy that's driven hundreds of thousands of hours, maybe thousands of hours, but the feedback that I was getting was they didn't feel the energy transfer back into the machine, which means the energy was staying in the head, going up the tree. They said I could always look up and see the energy being transferred, but I never felt it back. So to me, that screams quality, right? That screams that, hey, first off, we're not allowing the energy to come back with the redesigned R7 head, and comfort of the cab and quietness of the cab to keep your drivers in the seat, making them feel good about, right, staying in the seat and working longer. Those things are built in, right? You're getting that kind of stuff. So same controller, and I wonder if I should dive into adjusting pressures. Probably not. Huh? Let's keep going.
Yeah,
We'll jump into that some other time. Front tank. We'll jump into that. We'll hit front tank, and then we'll finish up on a few things that I'll show you guys inside of the cab, and maybe show you guys real quick. Tree Seeker Phase 1, just a quick operation like that.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so front tank, what you have here is a freshwater tank. If you remember earlier, if you watched the whole video, hopefully we're not losing you guys, but if you watched the video earlier, this is fresh water. Now, fresh water, because we inject this into, can you see me?
Yep.
Okay. We inject this into the airline. We were talking about heat killing pads, right? And keeping the machine working strong in high heat conditions, right? Summer is an absolute beast. So once again, we're not only pumping air through those pads, through those air pads, but every time the clamp opens, like I said, the air is continuous, but every time the clamp opens, we also inject a little bit of water inside that line. And that line goes into, once again, back into those pads, into the nylotron, cools the pads, and then it expels basically out. We have
We have a question. How big is the tank?
25 gallons.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, so this tank's 25, and then the Sling lube tank in the back is also 25.
Perfect.
Yep. Filters on both. You do have a little bit of room in the front. This is now a standard option also.
The cab filter for
Oh.
the
air.
cab filter for the cab.
What'd you say?
This right here is the cab filter for the cab.
Can't let him get out of this. You see this guy?
You want to change that every year.
Yeah. So this is now a standard. This used to be an option. The water pad used to be an option. We give it to you guys standard now. Once again, our objective is to give you something that's reliable and that can run in any conditions, right? And this helps us do that. You don't have to run it. You can turn it off in winter shake season. If you didn't want to run it into the regular season, you can turn it off. Once again, then the air is flowing through the pads, but just no water. Look, you see this finish? That powder coat finish? Now, a lot of companies and a lot of manufacturers do powder coat. Some still paint, but OMC powder coats everything. Is there anything we don't powder? There isn't, right?
Only pieces that won't live in 450 degrees. So cylinders, hydraulic motors, things of that
So if you
nature.
heard that, cylinders, hydraulic motors, those are the only things that we don't powder coat. Everything else that's built by OMC or Wesco is powder coat.
Yeah.
And the process of that is, I mean, we take it really to the next level. It's something that, I mean, I've never seen white steel before, right? But I mean, they sandblast, sorry. They sandblast the metal all the way down to, like I said, it looks white. And then it goes through the powder coat process. So you take this machine and you keep it clean. I have guys that have, 3, 4, 5-year-old machines that keep them inside the shop just like this. They wash them. Some guys even wax them. I mean, it just holds up. So you want to talk about resale? One of the questions, people ask all the time, why is your guys' resale so high? Well, it's a lot because of all the features we just covered, right? So we overbuild, right? We're more durable. We generate less heat. And then when you get into reselling and a machine being valuable, everybody knows that this machine is going to run a little longer than potentially some other machines. So it just holds up. The machine's awesome. I'm going to pull that off and show you guys the cab real fast, and then we'll conclude here. I'll pull something fast.
Got it?
Yeah. All right. You guys are with me? All right. Let's jump in. Let's jump into the cab real fast here. What's that, Brian?
Oh, we left the side open in case you wanted to
Oh, cool.
see the electronics in it. But
So you guys see, once again, if you guys have some questions here, let me know. I'm just going to turn the key on real fast. And you're going to see, let me point it down. All right. So we have a couple gauges right here. Actually, let's go ahead and start it. So we have hopefully you guys can hear me. I got the machine running. We got some of the panels open. But we have our air pressure right here. Once again, air pads. If you had a non-air pad machine, you wouldn't have this gauge. But this gauge is reading flow, so air flow. So if you have a complete reduction in flow, that means you got a leak somewhere, right? And it's allowing it just to come free flow out. If you have a spike in pressure, it means you have a plug. So there's something plugged in the machine, in the air lines, that you need to take a look at it, and it's probably reducing your cooling. Your heating controls, your AC controls, yeah, and then your joystick. I'm going to show you guys right here. So if you can see this button right here, I'm going to show you, that's what toggles you in and out of manual to automatic, and then your standard controls. If you look at the screen, I'm going to try to zoom in here. Hopefully it's visible. There you go. So right here, this is something we put in as a safety measure for companies, for operators. Once again, it's important for us to give you guys the best and safest machine, the most durable machine. So never work on the machine unless the engine is off and the machine is properly supported. English and Spanish. Now here's the deal. The machine will not move forward. I can try to move the forward machine with my foot. It won't move forward or backwards, and the head is dead also. You can see the head's dead. It's not doing anything. So for safety, this machine will not do any function unless I okay this. Okay, now we're on the main screen. And some of the things that I talked about, right? We have our temperature, we have our, temperature, oil, and then fuel and depth. You have, you'll see, I said I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but our water, our Sling lube, our lights, our low speed, and you'll see this is considered manual right now. Remember that little red button I showed you? I'll spin you down here. Right there, there's a red button. If I press that button, it now throws the machine into auto. Okay, auto is what we call our tree seeker function. Now, tree seeker phase 1. So I'm going to manually pull the head back in. Hold the head manually in. Let me turn it up a little bit. There we go. So let's pretend that the tree was out here, and let's pretend there was a tree out there. In the auto function, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to show you guys this here. Get it out of the way. I'm going to send the head out, right, which would be around the tree. And then I'm going to press one button. I'm not touching anything else, right? So now I just auto shook the tree. Now what that means to you guys is you're able to preset those functions. So inside these features right here, these little settings, we can preset whether you want 2-second shake, 3-second shake, 4-second shake, a variable shake where basically the head would ramp up and down on RPM, a double shake. It's pretty much infinite on what you can do to get that done. You have your set throttle right here. If I want to make changes, I can just hold. Now I can make changes on the screen. Hold on, there. So I can make my changes if I want to make changes on the RPM. I can make adjustments to it, and then when I go back to my set throttle, I can, like I said, we can go here. Now it's going to go up in RPM, and basically full versatility on the machine. The reversing fan. It's not going to show you dust, but once again, we talked about manually purging. This would manually purge the reversing fan. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's reversing. And then it stops. Actually, I'll jump out and I'll show you guys that working. And the high speed, low speed for road mode, your lights, your water, once again, your sweepers, and then we could jump into other things. Backup camera. If you want to dive into the settings, you can dive into the settings. It's super, you can see it's one to two buttons, ease of use to get in here and do it. That's about it. I'm gonna show you guys the reversing fan. You do have, which a lot of people mess this up too, this is an active brake. So the brake itself is on when the pedal's off, okay? So if I was to press the pedal even with the active brake on, it would move, and then this takes the active brake off. If you're making any adjustments to clamp pressure, you got it right here. Allen, and adjust that nut. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, so righty for higher pressure, lefty for lower pressure, and then you would just manually clamp that machine out for pressure adjustment. When you guys hit the reversing fan, hold on a second, guys, and then we'll end it. All right. You can see that fan. I don't know if you guys can hear me. One more. Yeah. You'll see it reverse. Every time it reverses, it's blowing out that way. There it goes. Yeah, if you're curious on pricing, you can just send OMC a personal message. I'll connect you to the right sales guy and we'll get you all the information that you need. So that kind of concludes it, guys. Super kind of quick overview. Hopefully you guys learned something today. And if you have other questions, feel free to ask. I do run the social media, so you're getting me. If you get to message the OMC, I'll make sure that you get in front of the right person, whether it's our regional service manager, Kevin, or maybe the VP, Brian, right, to answer those hard questions, or just our sales guys. We've got a really awesome sales team. We've got an amazing service team. Before I go, well, actually,
we had a question.
Oh,
I think,
yeah.
why is a reversing fan so important?
No,
I know you covered it, but
yeah, good question. You probably catching the tail end. We did cover why it's so important earlier, but why is you're in extreme conditions, and these machines are not only in the most dirtiest, beat up conditions possible, but most of the time, every time you shake a tree, junk, leaves, debris builds up on the outside of that and of that screen, and it starts choking the airflow down for the machine in order to keep the machine cool. So the reversing fan, once again, is set on a timer so we can reverse basically whenever we want, consistently without the operator touching it or manually, and it allows the machine just to run cooler. So there's a lot of fluids, right? Hydraulic fluids, engine, water. All these things are super important. The cooler we can keep the machine running just means the better machine that you're going to have and the more longevity you're going to get out of the machine. Anything else?
nope, that's it.
Good. Thank you, guys. Once again, I hope it was informative. Thanks to my camera guy, Brian, and Kevin. Brian jumped in too, but you can say bye. We're going to bow. Oh, is this where we say we're out like trout?
Out like trout.
Thank you, guys. And we're going to do some other videos of the AR400, the Hedgehog, right? Yep. And some others. So stay tuned. We're going to be editing these, doing a lot of these, trying to just kind of show you guys a little bit more about OMC and who we are. So what we got. All right. Thanks, guys.